My first 3 years working at High Times magazine, I harbored a dark, shameful secret. 3 years working at a pop magazine, so I hope that lets you feel a little less ashamed if you were binge. So my dark, shameful secret was I couldn't roll a decent joint to save my life, an expression that takes on new meaning when you consider this plant's amazing medicinal properties. And then imagine a nightmare, Twilight Zone-esque scenario where you're shipwrecked on a deserted tropical island with a whole bale of weed, a case of rolling papers, 1,000 lighters, and no way to get faded. So just imagine that. Picture yourself. This is motivating. Could happen. Sounds more like a bad sequel to Lost, but... Now, admittedly, it's highly unlikely your own personal moment of being unmasked as a non-roller will be nearly so dramatic as this wholly imagined worst-case scenario. But a crippling fear of facing prejudice, discrimination, and even public ridicule nonetheless keeps millions of people around the world suffering from joint rolling deficiency syndrome, JRDS, from coming forward and seeking help. So I'm here on behalf of myself and countless other JRDS survivors to say, you don't have to go on living that way. With proper instruction, which you're about to get, a positive attitude, which I hope you brought with you, and if not, we'll go out in the parking lot and we'll talk things through, get you positive, and a bit of patience, you too can overcome this debilitating condition and live the life you've always imagined. So how do you learn to roll a top-notch joint? Any guesses?
Practice.
Yes, the same way you get to Carnegie Hall. Practice, practice, practice. So I've broken it down into 7 steps, one of which sounds a little like a cop-out, but is not. I will explain it when we get there. But we'll start at step 1. Assemble at least a gram of cannabis, high-quality rolling papers. Raw paper is best, no flavors. Okay, so I don't want to crush anyone's illusions, but your strawberry-flavored rolling papers are not made by harvesting organic strawberries at the height of ripeness, cooking them down into a paste, into a sauce, and then pouring it into the paper mill, and then rolling out incredibly thin sheets. It's some chemicals. It's nasty chemicals. So I suggest either one of 2 things. You guys live in Seattle, get some good tasting weed. It's around, I guarantee it. And if you can only afford or access not so great tasting marijuana, do what I did when I was a teenager and just acquire a taste for not such good tasting marijuana. You'll be happier either way, and there'll be no chemicals in your weed other than the natural cannabinoids. So you need those rolling papers, an herb grinder, a rolling tray, an ashtray, and either cardboard tips to make a filter or a business card you don't mind tearing up. Step 2. Block out 45 minutes to do nothing but learn this one essential skill. So I originally wrote an hour, and you know what? It doesn't take an hour. If you focus, it's 45 minutes. You got to change your life. Okay? Start sober. And make the commitment that you will not smoke weed ever again until you've rolled 3 perfect joints in a row. That sentence is what makes this plan of action foolproof. You will not stop smoking weed forever. You will learn how to roll a joint. If it becomes an either-or, I will refund the price of this book if you honestly look me in the eye and say, I bought the book, I spent the 45 minutes, it was too hard, I haven't smoked weed in like 6 months, man, you ruined my life. At the very least, you will get the price of the book back. So, do this alone, with your phone turned off, and preferably on a rainy day, sitting next to a window you can occasionally gaze out of wistfully. So, no challenge up here to find a nice rainy day and a nice window to look out. Okay, don't skip on that. It's not just the mechanics, it's the milieu. Step 3, and this is also seems like something you could skip or can. Step 3, put on Kind of Blue by Miles Davis at moderate volume. Very important. Then grind the herb thoroughly, stopping before it becomes powdery. Perhaps the biggest mistake rookie rollers make is either over or under grinding their weed. If you keep going until it gets powdery, the flavor will seep out and the joint will burn harsh and quick. And if you leave your buds too chunky, the joint will be hard to roll and burn unevenly. Step 4, arguably a cop-out. I will endeavor to say that it is not. And I'll just mention, earlier in the book I talk about my colleague from when I worked at High Times, Danny Denko, who was cultivation editor there and a little bit of a mentor to me, and certainly the cultivation end of cannabis. You know, I'd say otherwise in the book, like, you know, all I knew about marijuana varieties when I started writing about marijuana at High Times was my dealer gave me 2 choices. Take it or leave it. I always went with take it. So it's been a real education. Step 4, not a cop-out. Watch Danny Danko's How to Roll a Joint video on YouTube and do what Danny does. Okay, so I wrote like 40 versions of put your fingers 6 inches apart and make it do, you know, it's hard to explain how to do something, and I found myself just watching this video and trying, and I was like, these people have YouTube. It's like, you know, it's not the 1850s. Just point them in the best direction to the best information. So do what Danny does. Over and over again, tearing the joint apart each time you finish, and spilling the ground up weed back into your rolling tray until you finally get it just right 3 times in a row without hesitation. So before we go on to step 5, anybody holding? Anybody got a joint at the ready? Thank you. You will not get this back as soon as I'm done. Okay. Oh, very good. Step 5. Hold your perfect joint up at arm's length and marvel at it. So for those of you who didn't raise your hand, you could be here. This is where you'd be standing. Okay? Feel a sense of self-reliance and self-confidence you've never known before. Then imagine a few scenarios where utilizing your new skill will yield rich rewards, like perhaps meeting a sexy stranger at a party who pulls you aside in the hallway and asks, "Hey, do you know how to roll a joint?" Now imagine yourself having to say, "No, sorry, I don't know how to roll it. Hey, oh wait, can you come get me when you find somebody to roll it? Because I'd really like to smoke with you and you seem like a nice..." Oh, you go. Versus being like, "I got you." Which person do you want to be? 45 minutes. Okay. Step 6 is the fun part. Fire up your masterwork. We cool? No. Fire up your masterwork. And while gazing out the window and listening to Miles, ruminate on the temporal nature of art and existence as the joint burns down to nothing but a resin-stained cardboard filter. And then step 7, start learning how to roll a joint when you're already stoned by returning to step 3 and starting over.